Prince Andrew broke cover today for a horse ride in Windsor as lawyers for Ghislaine Maxwell's victims called for the royal to be the FBI's next target. The Duke of York smiled as he rode through Windsor Great Park this morning on a brown steed, before getting behind the wheel of his Range Rover to return home. Yesterday his friend, Maxwell, 60, was jailed for 20 years after a court heard how she trafficked vulnerable teenagers to billionaire paedophile Jeffrey Epstein's various properties in Manhattan and the U.S. Virgin Islands for him to abuse between 1994 and 2004. Lawyers representing Epstein's victims have now urged U.S. authorities to investigate a string of other associates of the warped couple, including Andrew, whose role in the scandal led to a spectacular fall from grace. Lawyer Spencer Kevin, who represents several of the victims, told the Mirror there is also another Briton who they want to see probed. It comes after the Duke of York, 62, has largely withdrawn from public life since reaching a £12 million out-of-court settlement with his accuser Virginia Roberts Giuffre earlier this year. Miss Roberts claimed she was trafficked by Epstein when she was a minor so she could be sexually abused by Andrew. The Queen subsequently stripped the Duke of his HRH status, military titles and royal patronages. He has always denied the allegations. Maxwell, the daughter of media tycoon Robert Maxwell, met Andrew while studying history at the University of Oxford in the early 1980s. The Duke later invited the disgraced socialite and her boyfriend Epstein to Windsor Castle and the Sandringham estate. Speaking outside New York's federal court, Lisa Bloom, who represents several Epstein victims, said, "We call upon the FBI to fully investigate Prince Andrew. Virginia Giuffre's civil case should be just the beginning. Everyone associated with Epstein and Maxwell should be carefully investigated." Spencer Kevin, who represents several of Epstein and Maxwell's victims, told the Mirror, "Obviously, Andrew is one of the targets they will be looking into. He should definitely be concerned, but, if he did nothing wrong, then come forward and tell the full story to the FBI, not the media." And asked about others possibly linked to Maxwell and Epstein, Brad Edwards added, "Let's hope they're the next target. If we have anything to do with it, they will be." In January 2020, then U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York Jeffrey Berman said, "To date, Prince Andrew has provided zero cooperation." U.S. investigators later applied to the British government to hand over the Duke to give evidence through a mutual legal assistance request to the Home Office, bypassing Buckingham Palace. If approved, the FBI could ask Andrew to be compelled to go to a British court to give evidence under oath as a witness. The Home Office has refused to comment on the status of the MLA. Representatives for the Duke of York declined to comment when approached by Mail Online. Maxwell was on Tuesday sentenced to 20 years in prison for luring young girls to massage rooms for Epstein to molest. One of her victims, Annie Farmer, said outside the Southern District of New York court that powerful institutions had protected the pair for far too long. Maxwell and Epstein were predators who were able to use their power and privilege to harm countless individuals, Ms. Farmer told reporters. And for far too long the institutions that should be protecting the public were instead protecting them. I still hope that we find out more about how that was allowed to occur. She added, "I just hope that this sentence can be another sign that voices are coming together and saying, no more. If you commit these crimes, you will be punished. If you facilitate these crimes, you will be punished. If you are a bystander that looks the other way, you will not be allowed to continue to hold a position of power." Ms. Farmer was one of those to read a victim impact statement to the court earlier, telling jurors she was left frozen when the socialite asked her to undress for a massage and rubbed her breasts. Maxwell looked straight ahead and showed no emotion as Judge Allison Nathan passed sentence in front of a packed public gallery. Ms. Nathan on Tuesday told the court Maxwell repeatedly, and over the course of many years participated in a horrific scheme to traffic young girls, some the age of 14. The socialite apologized to her victims, saying she hoped her sentence will allow them peace and finality. Addressing them directly, she said, "To you, all the victims that came to today inside the court and outside, I am sorry for the pain you have experienced. I hope my sentence brings you closure, peace and finality, to help you put those experiences in a place that helps you move forward. I know my association with Epstein will follow and forever stain me," she said, addressing the court moments before her sentence was handed down. "It is the greatest regret of my life that I ever met Jeffrey Epstein. Ms. Farmer outside the court described the apology as hollow. Her statement felt like a very hollow apology. To me, she said, Maxwell did not take responsibility for the crimes that she committed. It felt like once more her trying to do something to benefit her and not at all about the harm that she had caused. Over the past 17 years, scores of women have accused Epstein of abusing them, with many describing Maxwell as the madam who recruited them. The allegations against Epstein first surfaced in 2005. The FBI and local police had, at the time, amassed evidence of sexual misconduct with many underage girls. But under a deal with federal and state prosecutors in Florida, later criticized as lenient, Epstein pleaded guilty to prostitution-related charges involving just one girl and served 13 months in prison, much of it in a work release program. Afterward, he was required to register as a sex offender. In the years that followed, many women sued Epstein over alleged abuse. Federal prosecutors in New York revived the case against Epstein after stories by the Miami Herald in 2018 brought new attention to his crimes. He was arrested in 2019, but killed himself a month later, 11 months after his death. Maxwell was arrested at a New Hampshire estate. Since then, she has been jailed in a federal facility in New York City. Epstein and Maxwell's associations with some of the world's most famous people were not a prominent part of her trial, but mentions of friends such as Bill Clinton and Donald Trump showed how the pair exploited their connections to impress their prey. The trial revolved around allegations from only a handful of Epstein's accusers. 4 testified that they were abused as teens in the 1990s and early 2000s at Epstein's mansions in Florida, New York, New Mexico and the Virgin Islands. 3 were identified in court only by their first names or pseudonyms to protect their privacy: Jane, a television actress; Kate, an ex-model from the UK; and Carolyn, now a mother recovering from drug addiction. The 4th was Farmer, the sole accuser to identify herself in court by her real name, after speaking out publicly. They described how Maxwell charmed them with conversation and gifts and promises that Epstein could use his wealth and connections to help fulfill their dream. Then, they testified, she led him to give massages to Epstein that turned sexual and played it off as normal. Carolyn testified that she was one of several underprivileged teens who lived near Epstein's Florida home in the early 2000s and took up an offer to massage him in exchange for $100 bills in what prosecutors described as a pyramid of abuse. Maxwell made all the arrangements, Carolyn told the jury, even though she knew the girl was only 14 at the time. Maxwell's lawyers fought to have her conviction tossed out on the grounds of juror misconduct. Days after the verdict, one juror gave media interviews in which he disclosed he had been sexually abused as a child, something he hadn't told the court during jury selection. Maxwell's lawyers said she deserved a new trial. A judge disagreed. During Maxwell's sentencing hearing Tuesday, the juror sat quietly among other spectators. At least 8 women submitted letters to the judge, describing the sexual abuse they said they endured. Anne Holve and Philip Maxwell, her eldest siblings, wrote to the court to ask for leniency and said that their sister's relationship with Epstein began soon after the 1991 death of their father, the British newspaper magnate Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell, they wrote, subjected his daughter to frequent rapid mood swings, huge rages and rejections, which led her to becoming very vulnerable to abusive and powerful men who would be able to take advantage of her innate good nature. Ransom, an accuser whose allegations weren't included in the trial, testified about the lasting harm to her life, gazing directly at Maxwell several times. You broke me in unfathomable ways, said Ransom, who twice tried to die by suicide, but you did not break my spirit.